The thing that I learned is to take confidence off of that continuum of humility versus arrogance and put it more in the process. I'm going to have I'm going to have an experience, and it's going to start here and I want it to end here. I don't have to be supremely confident in every step or the entire outcome. I just have to be confident to know I'm willing to do what it takes. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mind Muscle Connection. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Tyler Wiebe. I'm going to spin this just a little bit, Tyler, from what we talked about earlier. So I hope I don't throw you too far off. But I originally said I wanted to talk about kind of a comparison of confidence versus arrogance and maybe humility versus maturity, those kind of things. But I thought as I was trying to organize these thoughts in my mind, it's probably all actually centered around just confidence and the different ways that we apply it or we don't, the different ways some people can express it or not. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, it's something people are certainly attracted to when they don't feel they have it. Like, wow, that person, the real go-getter, they're just swinging for the fence. They're always getting what they aim for. And I think in my life, I have always been complimented of being a very self-assured person. That changes over time. And I think part of that confidence early in life, at least in my case, is a little bit of naivety. It's a little bit of impulsivity. It's not knowing how hard failure can feel. So you don't know what you're really risking. So earlier in my life, I felt like I was more confident. I felt like I was willing to take more chances. And then as they say, when you have more, you become a little more protective. It's like, well, now you have more to lose. And so you start looking at the clock. If you use a sport metaphor, it's like, well, I got to just run time out, man. I got the win. And you stop taking chances. And I've struggled with that a little bit in just second guessing. Like, am I doing enough? Am I still on the path I wanted to be on at different points of my career? And so I just think this whole sense of confidence is worth exploring. And as you and I talk to clients, I think that is a pretty central theme for everybody. Because, if you're trying to help somebody lose 60 pounds or 100 pounds, or somebody has a goal of a real body transformation and they want to, have abs for the first time in their life. And we know that aesthetic part of it, aside from health and functionality, that's probably the biggest motivating driver for most people. We have the whole physique sport, powerlifting sport thing, which is all about confidence. So a lot packed into that intro, but me just centering on confidence itself. I'm curious, your personal and professional interaction with that whole concept.
Well, let's start off personally, because I think, this is almost maybe perfect, because I think you and I are going to be opposites in that fact where like you said, had a lot of confidence, whereas I have not had a lot of confidence throughout my life in a lot of my own just, personal life, personal decisions and things like that. And where, mine has actually grown over time and has become, even more so, the more I have gotten to know myself, the more, I've had life experiences and I've made decisions and I've failed and I have succeeded. And, I've become, more of an independent person, in my own personal life. So, that's, certainly, I think something, personally that I've, had a lot of growth in, and it's still, certainly not where I would like it to be. So I think, kind of like you were saying, you still tend to second guess yourself. Oh, I don't think that ever goes away. And I know that we had been kind of, recently talking about, I'm in prep right now. And, I almost was ready to call it quits this last weekend because, I was having a lot of, maybe lack of confidence in that decision that I had made to do that, whether it was the right timing. I don't think it was whether I could do it or not. I've done it before. I know I could do it, but it was, do I want to do that? Right. And having that confidence to continue on and push through and see it through. Coaching wise, yeah, that is probably the number one thing that I tend to work through, especially, with clients who, for the most part, this fitness lifestyle maybe isn't really even a lifestyle. There has been a lot of failure. There has been a lot of back and forth. There is a lot of self-doubt that they can do it. And, it certainly manifests itself differently in different people. Some people are very, the check-ins can be a little depressing sometimes because it can be kind of the same negative self-talk week in, week out. And then some people just tend to hide it a little bit more, and it can come out in bursts. And so, as a coach, it's, I find so much it's so much being, like a cheerleader for those people, and really trying to instill confidence in them. And hey, let's just establish this routine. Let's establish this process. If we can do this, those results are going to come. And it's trying to, instill that confidence in them that, yes, they can plan ahead. They can track their macros. They can do these things. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of, being uncomfortable. And I think the only way, you're kind of going to gain that confidence is just going through the process. And I know we talked about this, a little bit, a couple podcasts ago, is, experience, right? Sometimes just nothing beats going through it and gaining that confidence. And so, it kind of ties in that personal and coaching part of, I didn't have a lot of experiences early on in my life that instilled a lot of confidence in myself. And, that led to a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of, depression and anxiety and a lot of second guessing. And, I've had to go through that, those life experiences to start to gain that confidence in myself of, okay, I can make these decisions and, be quote unquote confident that I've made that right decision.
Well, sometimes I think in me speaking about maturity and time and experience almost being a detriment, because then you start feeling like, well, maybe that impulsivity that would get me to jump first and think later, like now I would call that, well, now I'm just being smart. I've got more experience, but maybe I'm just less courageous. They're not two different things. They're two sides of the same thing. But I think right now, at least in the kind of pop psych world, there's a lot of talk about dopamine and the mesolimbic reward system and that kind of thing. And there's obviously been a lot of research for many, many years on that, but they're breaking it down into such small biochemical structures and processes that not that it matters that every part of that neurophysiology, but it really helps you understand it and put a visual framework to it. So, for example, we know in just the last couple of years, research shows that when you get the reward, like that's supposed to be the thing. Like when you want your little baby to do something, you reward them. Which dog to do something, you reward them. Well, now they're finding that reward actually diminishes the ability to sustain that behavior. It's totally the opposite, because intrinsically, you must learn to like the fight. You must learn to like the challenge. And I think if we focus on that and not the confidence, put confidence aside and just focus on the goal, like the act is, I want to compete in this contest. And we know 85% of people who start toward that track, they don't make it. They don't make it to that contest. I want to turn pro. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want this career. I want this education. Many, many more people fail. And along the way, it's not that they were thinking or assuming they had the confidence or not, but were they willing to say, I'm going to sit in this and I'm going to enjoy the pain. I'm going to enjoy the sacrifice. I don't care what it costs me. And this is that impulsivity and that naivete coming back in. Like, I'm just going to do it for the sake of the goal. And then guess what? That gives you confidence. Then all of a sudden you it's not confidence in confidence, it's confidence in yourself to stick to something to then transfer that skill to another goal. And I think that's where you can kind of keep yourself sharp is don't think, well, I'm not that person, I'm not that confident, or I am that person who has a lot of self-doubt. It's like, no, just make sure you have the time in the that it is a good, worthy goal. and that you are going to do whatever it takes. I will die on this hill for this goal.
Yeah, as you were kind of talking about that, I was kind of reminded, and it's something that I've actually been telling even myself a lot, this week, is if you can just kind of rework that neural pattern that we've talked about of, no, I am the person who does X, right? Instead of, saying, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's, no, I am the person who enjoys the process. I am a person who enjoys the pain and the suffering. I am, it is trying to, ingrain that, into yourself, because again, we always come back to this, is, it truly is just that, that day-to-day process of getting there and doing the work, doing the things that need to be done, that is going to eventually get you to that goal. And so, yeah, I think just, so much of that confidence, like you were saying, comes from becoming that person first. And it's just like a byproduct, I think I've said this before, on the podcast, is I harp with my clients so much about just, that day-to-day stuff, because guess what? If you do that, it's going to happen. It's just going to, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to get the results if you do X, Y, Z. And so I think it comes to the same thing here with the confidence of, working towards that goal. It's, yeah, I am the person that does this. I am the person that does that. And I think, that has to be so important, because for someone like me who has had so much negative self-talk, to be able to try and flip that can be so difficult, because that is my default. That, as soon as one little thing can go wrong, that's where I want to go. And so to try and rework that self-talk, the emotional intelligence that goes along with that as well, it's hard, because it's such a ingrained groove for somebody. And so, we've said this before, it takes time. Was it a year? A couple podcasts ago, we were talking about how it can take a full year to really start to see those, those mental ingrained changes that, you have to kind of go through and just work through that process.
Well, and I don't want to frame arrogance as a necessary part of this equation, but let me talk about how, in retrospect, that can be misconstrued. So let's say somebody has a goal like Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan, like, I'm going to be the best in the world at this. I'm going to be the best. When they become the best, you're like, wow, that dude was confident. Like, that was amazing. That it took confidence. Well, what if he failed and you never heard of him? Then I'm sure his friends and family would say, well, wow, he had a great career. He still made it to the pros, did this Division I, scholarships, didn't become the best in the world. I when I was 12 years old, I was going to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I was 100% confident. I was practicing in my yard. I was going to be that guy. There was no doubt in my mind. It didn't happen. Does anybody say, wow, Joe, what a shitty guy. You just didn't have enough confidence. Or would they say, like, wow, you were so arrogant. Like, what a little fuck you were if you really thought you were going to do that. That's just part of life. That's the sliding scale of internal motivation and just pursuit, ambition. So I was telling my son this last week, a little bit of a neural hack for what you just described. We went to the Harvard of bartending schools, and it was insanely difficult. I mean, talk about self-doubt. I mean, I saw anguish on Trey's face these entire 2 weeks. And after a couple of days, I said, dude, look, everybody who's ever gone through this course, I shouldn't say that, not everybody, there have been people who have passed this course. Like, we actually even had people in our cohort who dropped out because it was tough. I said, people have passed this course. You're here, you're not working, you're focusing 100% on this. If other people have done this, you can do it. Sure enough, he is one of the only people who has ever passed with 100% score on the final exam, final practical. And it was like, I could see that change in his behavior from like really, really struggling to like, wow, yeah, I'm going to be that person. And it took a little outside encouragement from me, or at least that helped. But it was the thought like, oh, you're right. Like, people do pass this. every single month people come to the school and they pass this. If they can do it, I can do it. And I think that's sometimes all we need to hang in there.
Yeah, we get so caught up in our own internal struggle and our own, internal thoughts, and we become so subjective with ourselves. Like, like it kind of comes back to coaching, right? And you kind of have to get, people and yourself to kind of take that step back. And yeah, like other people have done this, probably people that, haven't worked near as hard as I have, or this and that. And so it's, again, you get that confidence almost, right? And so it's like, that confidence can kind of beget then the success down the road with kind of just that little switch, getting that little external help of maybe just changing one word, changing one sentence, and how you talk to yourself and how you might approach something, and shifting that perspective to, something a little bit different. And it seems like it could be something so simple, but yet it's something that we just tend to struggle with so much. And I just kind of always keep coming back to it's that self-talk. It's how we label ourselves and how we look at kind of every situation that we're going through. And it's like, are you going to say, I can't do this? Or are you going to go, no, I am the person that is going to go and do this?
Well, the irony is, and I kind of categorize this as the act as if mentality. I did not do as well as Trey. He got 100% on his final exam. I got a 94. I just, and I was struggling more because I was still running my business, working with clients. And so I'm like, man, I am really struggling. But the funny thing is, the instructor, we had 3 practicals along the way. And in the very first one, as I'm sitting there getting everything wrong, and I think on the first practical, I got somewhere in like 88, 87%. The first thing she said with her notebook, checking things out, she goes, man, I really liked your confidence. She said, you talked to the customer really well. Like your whole rapport and demeanor was excellent. Now we definitely got to work on the drinks, and here's where you fucked up. But the thing is, like, I took my own advice. Like, I knew I was going to pass this course. I knew I'm going to get out of it what I put in, but I still wanted to go through the process, like getting everything I could out of it. And so even though the pieces weren't quite coming all together yet, I didn't crumble. I didn't quit. I just said, I'm going to take my punches. Like, I know I'm not ready for this. I'm not going to do as well as I would love to, but I'm going to get hit in the face a couple times, and I'm going to learn from that. And that was showing confidence, even though I didn't deserve it. I was acting as if I was going to be the person who graduated. I was going to be the person who caught up and finished the job.
Yeah, because in a situation like that, it's so easy to become flustered, embarrassed, feel stupid, and just
Totally.
have, all of that self-doubt come in. And, for myself, I have found it's slow down, slow the brain down, like don't, you can get like just right, like so uptight almost, right? And you get tense, and you almost kind of have to just relax. And I like how you say, it's not going to be great. Understand it's a new skill. And guess what? Everybody sucks when you're learning something new. That's the point. Like
Dude, that's exactly what kept me going, because you're right.
Yeah.
I hate to be embarrassed. I hate to suck at something. And I'm like, well, I'm going to, so I might as well go in, as you said, as relaxed as I can, and learn as much as I can, because I just know this is part of the process. Failure is part of success. And that's what kept me going.
Yeah, we're like, being humble comes into play then, of like, no, I know it's a new skill. I know I'm going to suck at it. I don't think you'll ever get rid of the feelings of feeling embarrassed or, not feeling, like the smartest in a situation like that. But I think it's learning to accept that and just know that, again, it's part of the process. You didn't drop out, right? This person, she's not going to remember who you are in 2 weeks. And she's probably seen 100 others come through that have done far worse jobs than you have, right? And again, we kind of like get so caught up in ourselves, and we think we're the most important being in the world. and we almost allow that to get in the way of having that confidence and going through that process of failure, of learning something new, and taking those bumps along the way. And I mean, shit, like that's where you learn though, right? Like that's where you can go recalibrate and go, okay, like, this is where I made a mistake. This is where I made a mistake. And now this is how I'm going to get better. And so, just by shutting yourself off from that, you're being almost selfish with yourself, in a sense of you're not allowing yourself to be open to something where, you don't know where it could take you and how it could improve your life, and what skills you might be able to learn, from that. I mean, now you can make an amazing martini, I'm sure.
Well, the thing that I learned in even just using that as a little bit of a backdrop for this discussion on confidence is to take confidence off of that continuum of humility versus arrogance and put it more in the process. I'm going to have an experience, and it's going to start here, and I want it to end here. I don't have to be supremely confident in every step or the entire outcome. I just have to be confident to know I'm willing to do what it takes. As long as I'm confident every day that I'm going to hang in there, then you end up earning that confidence. You end up with a sense of achievement, and then you can go on and you can apply that to the next goal in your life.
Yeah. 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 Because it's not like just this magical switch that's, going to turn on. Like it's going to have to come through, like we've been saying, that experience, that day-to-day process of just going, yep, I'm the person that does this. I am going to finish the task. And yeah, that was, kind of, circling back, like that was a big thing for me when, I was deciding, when am I going to do this prep or not? And what kind of helped me really solidify that I'm going to do this was, what type of person do I want to be for Quinn, my daughter? And she's only 2, so it's not like she's going to fully understand what's going on, but she's smart as a whip already. And she's already watching, she's already, learning. And so am I going to be the type of person that quits and, doesn't finish through something once I've started it? Or am I going to be a person that, hey, maybe I, don't necessarily want to do it, but guess what? I've made the commitment and I'm going to finish it. And that was kind of the ultimate decision, like the question that really kind of solidified that decision of, no, like I need to be the person, if not for me, which it is for me, but for her, to show that example of, no, weebs are people who finish the shit that they start.
There you go. There you go. All right, man. Well, thank you for that. Great way to end it. And we will see you guys next time in the Mind Muscle Connection.